Hi guys and welcome. You're joining me today on a tutorial on how to make wraparound trousers but without the hassle of the ties. Now if like myself you love the look of the wraparound trousers but you don't want the hassle of having to tie them around the back then tie them around the front, so when you actually go into the bathroom you've got to take the whole thing off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making, they are a wraparound trouser but I'm going to be putting a shirred waistband on. Now, the fabric that I'm going to be using is light and floaty Georgette type for the beach. And there's no stretch in this fabric. So I need to allow more than what you'd normally have in a wrap trouser. Because the idea of a wrap trouser is you can have them as wide or as narrow as you like. It's all down to personal preference as to how you want to wear them. And I'll explain that when we take the measurements. So if you'd like to see how these are made, guys, and make your life a bit easier with the wrap trousers, keep watching. Now there's three measurements, guys, that you need to take to get your measurements to cut out on your fabric. One is your waist, one is your crotch, one is your outside leg. The easiest way to take your outside leg measurement is to grab a pair of your favourite trousers, your favourite jeans, and take it off the outside leg. So I've got a pair of my jeans here. If I wanted that length and I was happy where they sat on my waist, I'd be happy to take the measurements off it. And I would simply measure from the top, take that down to the bottom. It's 35 inch. I don't need any seam allowance on the top because it's going inside a waistband, and the bottom I need to add a seam allowance on, well, because I'm only doing a small hem, I'm just allowing an inch. That's all I'm allowing. So I will mark and cut them to 36. Now if you didn't, say like you weren't taking them off a pair of trousers, then what you need to do then is you need to put the tape measure where you're happy for it to sit. Now bear in mind you're going to have a waistband on top of that, and then just take the measurement where the length that you want it to be. So that for me is going down to the floor at 37. Now for your crotch, you're going to take that underneath and you're going to pull this up and decide where you want that to be. Now I'm going to have this lower than what I would normally have it because I'm going to put a 3-inch shirred waistband on top of these trousers. So what I'm going to do is when I've got my jean waist here, I'm going to actually measure it from just under that waistband, even though my 3-inch waistband's going to be higher than that. Right, so I'm going to put that just under that there, just under it at the back. So I've just measured it to there, under the waistband there, and that is 24 inch. So I need to split that in two, and I will mark that to 12 inch because you've got your 12 inch there, your 12 inch there, which is going to give me my 24 inch. Now for your waist, this is where you're going to decide how wide you want your wrap legs to be. Some people have them to there, and then they've got more legs showing on the outside because as you're walking, your legs are going, floating about. But me, I'm going to go full to the centre, so it's coming round full to the middle, and my legs will meet in here, the same at the front and the back. So that's 44. But I'm going to need a seam allowance on all four outer legs because they're open legs, because they're wrapped round. So where that would be 44, split it in two, 22, and then I'm going to add an inch on because I'm going to fold the sides over twice. So I will mark that to 23, and then as I'm going down, you can go as wide or as narrow as you want, because my daughter, my eldest one, she wanted really wide legs. So when I got her waist, I simply tapered it out so the leg was coming wider as she come down, and she loves them. So let's get the measurements onto the fabric. So what you need to do first, guys, is you need to cut your fabric to what your outside leg is measured. So if you've measured your leg to, let's say like I've measured it, 38, then it's cut to 38. Now depending on how wide you want your trousers to be, because I'm having them quite wide, I'm going to need one piece for one leg. But if you're having them narrower, you will get away with folding that in half, getting one leg, and then the back piece, folding that in half. So you make this one piece, two pieces, and get two legs because you're only wanting them narrow. Okay, so that's marked up to what I've just measured my outside leg. I'm going to measure the crotch first. Now, the bit that you come in is universal, and that's usually between 5 and 6 inch. And I'm going to mark mine to 5 inch and just mark that. I'm then going to come down the 12-inch that I said, and I'm going to put that there. And then what I'm going to do there is I'm going to start tapering that round, so I've got a curve there to the top, and then I will cut that out because that's my crotch area. And then for my waist, I said it was 44 in half, 22 and an inch seam allowance, so I'm going to mark this to 23. Right, so that, wow, that is just coming there, isn't it? So I've got 23 there, 23 on the back, that's 46. By the time I've done the hem on there, I've got my 44 that I need for my waist. So I'm just going to cut this out. And then on that side seam, I just need to cut off, basically, looking at that, I just need to cut that seam off. So I'm just going to turn that this way, and then I'm going to do that in one go because these are just sat together. That's your one leg that's going to wrap round. And I'm going to do the exact same. Come in 5-inch for the crotch. This is a universal measurement that I've said. I'm going to come down 12-inch, and then I'm going to start again tapering this round, shaping it around the crotch area. And because that's only just a centimetre in, I'm not even going to mark that, I'm just going to cut it. So again, that's my second leg. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the machine and I'm going to do my outer seams first, and then I'm going to join the crotch to the other piece, so I've then got 2 legs. So I've got the 2 pieces on my table, and what I'm going to be doing here is where I've got the U shape, which is the crotch, I'm putting these right side fabric facing each other. So I'm just going to follow that round and just keep clipping it ever so often. I'm not pulling or stretching this at all, I'm just lining them up as I go around. And then that's all pinned in place on the crotch area, ready to sew. I'm just going to overlock around this crotch area. Now I have dropped a bit of a goulet on this one because I've been working with some of these that I've been making recently, and I've been working with stretch fabric. Now, as I've said, this is not stretch fabric, and what I should have done was I should have allowed a little bit more for pulling on and off, which I haven't done. It's easy rectifiable because where I was going to have my legs meeting in the middle, I've just got to move them out a bit just to allow me to get them up and down with ease. So if you're working with non-stretched fabrics and you're going to make a pair of these, take that into account, that when you're doing your measurements. So where I marked it to 23, if I'd have marked it to 24 and a half, it would have given me plenty of room to pull them up and down. So just bear in mind that when you do it working with non-stretch, you do need to allow a little bit more to get them up and down, but they're not ruined because, like I said, it just means me moving the legs slightly out instead of having them meeting in the middle. So what I'm at the point now where I've got the crotch bits together. So where I've got at this point there's no front and back, you've just got your crotch area, and that is where that overlock seam is what I've just done. So I'm going to, at this moment in time, just put a clip there to keep it in place, and then what I need to do is I need to bring this leg round, and where it was going to meet in the middle, because I haven't allowed anything, I'm going to take that out, and I'm only going to take it out an inch, because an inch there, and the same on the back is going to give me, in fact, no, I'm going to come further out at the front by about 1.5 inches, and then what I need to do here is I need to clip this round. So I've got both of these pieces together, which are the legs, and then I'm working this around. Right, I'm going to undo that at this moment in time, which was keeping the area close together. Right, so let me just look at that. Yeah, that's fine, that. So you can see there that I've got a gap there and a gap at this side, and then I need to do the exact same on the opposite side. So I'm just going to clip them two together again while I do the other side. So that's the top of the crotch that's overlocked that I'm pinning together at this moment in time. And then what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to start, just check on this side that I've got this back leg that's coming round. I'm going to be clipped onto the front, and I want the same gap as what I've got on the other side. Now I don't need my tape measure because they're looking pretty even, and then I'm just working the tops of those legs together and pinning those in place. Right, then I'm going to take the clip out that was keeping those together in the centre, and then if I hold them up, you'll see then that it's taking shape of the wrap trousers, you see. So I'm just going to go to the juke and actually just stitch them in place before we start on the waistband. Right, so what I'm doing here then is just stitching round, holding these legs in place at the waist. Little back tap there, and I've not got much seam allowance here. I'm literally running this down the side of this inner foot area there, and that's my guideline as I go around. Right, so I need to measure now for the waistband, and I'm going to be doing a good deep 3-inch one, so I'm going to be cutting it at 7 inch. So I just need to measure that so I know what size waistband to do. Right, so that's 23, double that, which is 46, because I've got front and back, so 23 there, 23 on the back is 46, so I'm going to cut it at 47 for the seam allowance. Right, so I'm just going to mark that straight. Right, and then I'm going to mark this to 7 inch deep. And then what did I say that wanted to be? 47, didn't I? 47, so if I say 46, which is 23, and then that gives me my 47 there. This is my waistband. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this to the ironing board and do some pressing on it before I start. I've got the fabric, the right side facing down. the wrong side looking at me. And what I'm going to start off by doing is, this fabric actually irons pretty well. So I'm going to start off by just turning the seam allowance in at this point all the way across on both sides. What I then need to do is fold this over again and put a crease on this outer, this top area here. So I'm actually lining it up on these edges that I've just done here. So lining that up there, oh no, that hasn't, and then pressing it down. So that's my waistband pressed in place. Right, so what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be marking where the shearing is going to be. So I'm going to come up, I've got, okay, so I'm going to do these at, that's going to be stitched there. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I'm going to do 5 rows of shearing. Okay, so I'm just going to keep coming along. And then I'm going to join the lines. Right, and I'm going to do that all the way along. So there I've got, it's all marked up for the shearing. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the duke and I'm just going to get both ends of this waistband and I'm just going to put those ends together. I'm going to open those seams up and stitch that down on the duke. That's all I'm going to be doing. Now what I've got now is I've got the trousers, and where this opening is at the front, that is the front of the trouser, because at the back you've got the wrap round leg inside on the back and the front is on the outside. But I'm going to put this join to the back and I'm going to stitch that first. So I'm going to open that seam that I actually pressed. I'm going to clip that in place and then I'm just going to start by clipping that all the way around. Right, so let's go and stitch that in place. So when I press this waistband, the seam that I pressed it on, that is the seam I'm going to be stitching into as my seam allowance. And I'm going to be starting on that back, join just in front of it, but I'm lining up as I go across. So keeping my outer edges together, but I'm stitching in that crease where I ironed it. And let me start where that seam is on the back. So once again, I'm just going to take, and I'm just pinning this just slightly underneath where I've just stitched. So where I've got this seam, where I've just joined the waistband to the top of the trousers, I'm just making sure that this is just coming just underneath that stitching. Right, so that's how it's looking up to now. So I'm going to go and get this stitched on. Right, so I'm going to start this then, because I need to stitch it. I'm going to stitch it on the right side, so trying to stitch in the ditch. So I'm going to start at the back, and with this, because it's sheer, you can actually see where this is lying at the back, and that's a good thing about having sheared fabric, that you can actually see that. Let me just get that. Yeah, so I am just stitching just underneath where that seam is. Right, so I need to be taking the pins out from underneath as I'm coming round. There's a couple of places where that hasn't come quite down, so I'm just gonna go back in there and pull it down. And let me find out where there's another bit that's missing here. And get that pulled down. And then that's caught them all in. Right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to repress that hem down, because I did come slightly down here, didn't I? So I'm just going to go and press that flat again before I start the shearing. Right, so to get the shearing done, guys, you're going to need some shearing elastic, which is this thin elastic that comes on a tube. So we're going to wind some of this onto a spool first, and we're not winding this on tight, you're just getting hold of it and then start winding it on, but you're winding it on loose. So you're going to put this in your bobbin case as you would a bobbin of cotton. We're going to pick that up. I'm going to take them both to the back of the foot. You're going to tighten your tension quite a bit. Get some good puckering going on here. Right, so let me get... So I have just been and pressed this again, as I've just said. So this is all nice and flat for me to work with. And I'm going to start at the back of the trousers, where that seam is. Right, so let's get this turned on. Let's get this show on the road. And I'm going to do a good back tack at the start. And then where I've drawn those blue lines, I'm just stitching down the centre of the foot, so the needle's going in the blue line. When I started off, I'm going to meet that there. I'm going to sew down a centimetre to take me into the next blue line. Right, so as I'm doing this, I need to open the fabric up as I'm going along and stitch in that blue line. So you can see I've just got the hem to do. The waistband is quite cute because it's a shirred one. So it's just a case of now I've got my wrap trousers. Just a case of pulling them on and off when I need to go to the bathroom, and when I get to the beach it's just pulling them on and off and putting them back on. I've got my bikini bottoms underneath. So I'm going to take these to the machine and actually just stitch the hem in place now. Alright, so let's get these hems stitched in place. I'm going to come up the side first, running in the stitch that's already there. So these are the finished trousers, guys. My cute waistband where it's shirred, and I've still got my wrap round trousers but without the hassle of the ties. Now if you didn't want to do a shirred waistband, I've made another pair, and these are black lace, and what I've done with these is I've actually put an elastic waistband on. So I've done exactly the same process, but just put elasticated waistband on, and then on the front here I've made a tie so it actually does look like you've got proper wrap round trousers on. And what I've done is I've stitched, this is just a band that I made like a fabric belt if you like, and where the seam is there I've stitched it, so 3-inch apart, stitched it, and then I've basically pulled it. In fact, let me try them on for you. Still got my bikini bottoms underneath. You can see there where it goes, and these are the ones where these meet dead in the middle. But once again, two great pair of wrap trousers, but without the hassle of the ties. So if you're like me, you like the idea of them but you don't want to be tying them, this is what you need to do. These really are easy to do. You don't have to have the ties, and like I said with this one where I've actually made it look like there's a tie, nobody would know that it's elasticated waist when you've got a top above it. So thanks for joining me, guys. Take care for now, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.